So Blink-182 recently announced the return of Tom DeLonge, bringing the trio back in full force, dropping a new single with an album and world tour on the way. They've always been one of my favorite bands, so needless to say, I was super stoked to hear this. Stoked? Do people still say that? Whatever. I thought it would be fun to do a cover of All the Small Things, so we're going to play through the song, do a walkthrough of the mix, and then you can actually download the free multi-tracks to mix the song yourself. Just go to FromZeroToStudio.com/Blink182 or click the link below in the description and you can download the tracks there. Alright, let's dive into it. So this song was a blast to work on because not only is it a band that I enjoy, but it was produced and mixed by two people who have been an inspiration in the world of music production. Jerry Finn was the producer who's worked with bands like Sum 41, AFI, Green Day, just to name a few, and then it was mixed by Tom Lord Alge, who's worked with Weezer, Fall Out Boy, the Rolling Stones, and the list goes on. Both of these guys have an impressive list of credits and have definitely been heavy hitters in shaping the sound of music we've heard throughout the years. So with this cover, I went for a more modern sound rather than trying to recreate the sonics of the original recording. With the drums, they're all MIDI triggered, and this might be similar to what many of you are working with in your home studios. You're building your drum parts from loops or samples, because you might not be set up or even have access to record a live drum kit. We've got a CLA kick, and then a CLA snare on Snare 2 from Steven Slate Drums, and then Snare 1 and the rest of the kit were from the Modern and Massive pack by Get Good Drums. Let's take a listen to the full kit. When using drum samples, they're typically already made to sound great, but I did do some additional processing to these to really shape the sound of the drums for this song. On the kick, I've got a little bit of compression. I'm driving the virtual channel from Slate Digital, which models different recording consoles. And then I got an EQ with the high shelf boosted a couple decibels at about 8K, and then about 5 decibels or so down at 50 Hertz. The CLA kick does sound good on its own, but I just wanted a little bit more from the top and bottom. After that, I'm running an instance of JST Clip, which is a clipper that adds a bit of beefiness from harmonic distortion while preserving the transients. And that's it for the kick. On snare 1, I've got some EQ and compression from the SSL channel. I'm boosting about 6 decibels at 10K, cutting a little resonance at 90 Hz, followed by a 4 decibel boost at about 250. After that, I've got the virtual channel, followed by another EQ that's boosting a tiny amount back into the high end, and then JST clip. So let's take a listen to that snare with and without the processing. So that definitely fattened it up a bit and gave it a more aggressive sound that's going to help to cut through the mix. On snare 2, I'm running pretty much the same processing. I'm just using that snare to give a little more of that snare sizzle and a little extra room sound to the mix. And then both of these snares are feeding into a snare bus track. On the snare bus track, I have an SSL EQ that's taming just a little bit of the high end, followed by an instance of JST clip, and then a limiter that's only being used to reduce the level a little bit because I already had some automation written on this track. So let's hear these two snares together. Here's without snare 2. Back in. So that second snare may sound like a lot when just hearing the snares on their own, but in the context of the full mix, they really do create a nice blend together. So both toms have the virtual channel, followed by some EQ and compression, and then JST clip. And then the toms are all routed to a tom bus that has an EQ boosting a couple decibels at 80 Hz and about 2 dB or so at 7K. I didn't have to do much with the hi-hat and cymbals, mostly just some subtle EQ adjustments and a little bit of compression on the hi-hat just to tame some of the harder hi-hat crashes. The drums do have some parallel compression on the full kit just for a bit more impact, and for that I'm using the Blue CLA76. There's also a touch of reverb on the snare and the cymbals, and then finally the drums go to a drum bus that has some compression knocking back about 1 decibel or so on the loudest parts, and for that I'm using the Black CLA76. And that's it for the drums. So the bass guitar was recorded direct and processed through the Ampeg SVX plugin by Amplitude. I've been using this plugin for years and I just love the way it sounds on bass. I've also duplicated this bass track to create a bass sub, and I cut out most everything except for the low frequencies, and that's just so I could have a well-controlled low end that I could blend as needed. So the bass tracks are then running to a bass bus, which has some subtle EQ, and then a multi-band compressor just to help to keep the clankiness of the bass under control. For guitars, they were all recorded direct through Guitar Rig 6 using the Modern Gratifier amp. While I really like this amp, it's pretty dark sounding, so I had a good size boost at 8K, and also I boosted at 188, about 10 decibels there, which was a Chris Lord algae trick I picked up. Just really gives the guitars this wide and full in-your-face sound. Then we got the octave and picking guitars that come in, and those were played through the same amp, but I EQ'd those a bit differently just to stand out against the rhythm guitars. Then once we get to the bridge, I added these clean guitars that sort of mimic the synth part a bit during the original song. I almost opted to use these guitars in place of the synth, but in the end it was just still missing a little bit of something, so I did add that synth part in there. But of course we have the picking guitars during the build. So after that, all the guitars are going to a guitar bus that has some EQ, some very subtle multi-band compression to control the chugs. And then I'm actually using this Wave Shuffler plugin just to get a little extra width from the guitars during the chorus. I don't typically reach for stereo enhancement plugins, but I really wanted it to feel a little bit wider on this part. Check out where this kicks in. All right, here it comes. Here's without. Back in. So without that plug-in engaged, it just doesn't feel as big as I wanted it to. So that really helped to get that larger-than-life sound I was looking for. Now, many people don't know this, but during the chorus of All the Small Things, there's a synth part in the background that just goes back and forth between octave Cs. And what this is doing is creating some tension between the guitars and the backing vocals during some of these chord changes. I never knew this was here until someone pointed it out to me, and now this is all I can hear in the song, so check this out.
Go, turn the lights off, carry me, na 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 na
leads into the bridge synth. Now that bridge synth, I'm not doing much. A little bit of EQ and compression, a little flanging. And that's it, so that's cool. And that takes us to vocals.
Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights off, carry me home. Keep your head still, I'll be your thrill.
So in the original song, the lead vocals were double or triple tracked, with the doubles panned pretty tightly towards the center. I originally had a similar vocal mix, but getting further down into the mix and trying to go for a more modern version of the song, it just didn't fit with what I had. So I kept the doubles, but I buried them down pretty deep, hard panned them left and right, just to add a bit more thickness to that lead vocal. So here's what we've got going on with the vocals. We have the virtual channel, followed by some 1073 saturation. After that leads into RVox, which is knocking back about 3 decibels. And then that goes to the API EQ, which is doing some gentle boosts. And then I actually have 3 stages of de-essing going on. 2 of them controlling the harsher S's and T sounds, while the third is actually set up to reduce like that 2K area, just for any extra honkiness that jumps through out of the vocal. Last is the Blue CLA76 compressor, which is adding about 10 decibels of compression on average. The vocals are all then sent to a vocal bus, which has some very light compression, some additional de-essers just to catch any strays that might have made it through, and then some virtual tape emulation. As far as any effects on the vocals, I've got a plate reverb, a quarter note delay, and then a slap delay. Last but not least, we've got some mix bus processing going on. We've got the virtual mix bus, followed by some EQ, compression, some limiting, some tape emulation, a little bit of clipping, and then a final limiter at the end.
Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights off, carry me home. Keep your head still, I'll be your thrill. The night will go on, my little windmill. Say it ain't so, I will not go. Turn the lights off, carry me home. Keep your head still, I'll be your thrill. The night will go on, the night will go on, my little windmill.
So in a nutshell, that's the mix breakdown for my cover of All the Small Things. Don't forget to download the free multi-track so you can mix this song yourself. It's good practice, and the more material you work on mixing, the further you're going to develop and improve on your mixing skills. You can download the tracks by clicking the link below in the description, or by going to FromZero2Studio.com/Blink182. And if you do your own mix, share a link, tag me in a post, send it to me in an email, and I'd love to hear your take on a mix of this song. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. I'll see you on another video soon.